What just happened to all of you? It's about to get worse.
Joanna, we know you've spoken with the baptizer.
John, something's happening. John, there's a plot. They're going to kill you.
It's official. The Chosen Season 5 is here, and with it comes the beginning of the most emotional, intense, and heart-shattering story the series has ever told. The first episode premiered in theaters on March 28th, and fans across the world are already talking about the weight it carries. But before we dive into all the emotional threads and powerful themes this episode begins to unravel, let's talk about the rollout. Because this season, more than any before, is doing things differently. And that's no accident. Episode 1 didn't just quietly drop on the app or stream online. It debuted on the big screen with the kind of reverence you'd expect for a moment. This sacred. Releasing in theaters isn't just about making a statement, it's about creating a shared experience. Watching the moment Judas sits with Jesus knowing what's coming hits differently when you're sitting in a room full of people who are all holding their breath right along with you. And this is just the beginning. Episode 2 followed on April 3rd, and Episode 3 arrived on April 10th, completing the theatrical run before the rest of the season releases in waves on the Chosen app. It's a bold move, yes, but it's also a reminder. This show is more than a show. It's a journey, and this season's first step is a heavy one. From the very start of Episode 1, there's a shift. The energy is different, the pacing is tighter, the silences are heavier. You can feel that we're entering the final stretch of Jesus' time on earth. And even though we all know how this story ends, there's something about watching it unfold through the lens of the Chosen that makes it feel brand new and utterly heartbreaking. The decisions, the glances, the words left unsaid, they all matter more now because we know what's coming and they don't. Jonathan Rumi, who continues to bring Jesus to life with such grace and depth, warned us ahead of time. Season 5 would be intense. And that word doesn't even begin to cover what Episode 1 delivers. Rumi described it as a steamroller bulldozer intensity, a melee of emotions and conflicts. That intensity is already on full display. From the moment the episode begins, the tone is heavier. There's a looming sense of something tragic on the horizon, and at the center of it all is Judas. Yes, Judas, the most complicated, heartbreaking figure in the Gospels. And in The Chosen, his journey is not rushed. It's not simplified. It's explored with nuance and honesty. Luke Dimian's performance in this episode is especially haunting. There's a softness in his eyes, a vulnerability. He doesn't look like a traitor. He looks like someone desperately trying to believe in what he's chosen, even as doubts creep in. Watching him beside Jesus, still welcomed, still trusted, still loved, it's almost unbearable. Because we know what he's going to do. But right now, Jesus just sees his friend. And that moment, quiet, heartbreaking, intimate, is what makes this episode unforgettable. But Episode 1 doesn't just focus on Judas. The whole cast is stepping into a darker, more emotionally charged chapter. Shahar Isaac, who plays Simon Peter, hinted that this season would be bigger in every way. More people, more tension, more weight. And in this premiere, we feel it. The apostles are growing restless. The pressure is mounting. The miracles are being questioned by those in power. And the enemy is closing in. Still amidst all the darkness, there's beauty. There's hope. There's love. The Chosen has always managed to strike that delicate balance between pain and peace. And Season 5 continues that tradition with even more emotional depth. It's not just about what happens. It's about what it means. What it means to follow when you're afraid. To trust when everything feels uncertain, to love when you know it might cost you everything. Dallas Jenkins, the visionary behind this show, said something in an interview that really stuck with me. He reminded us that Jesus didn't walk alone in those final days. He was surrounded by his closest friends. And even though they didn't fully understand what was coming, they followed anyway. That's what Season 5, Episode 1 captures so beautifully. The tension, the fear, the faith, all woven together in a way that makes you feel like you're right there with them, walking into the unknown. This episode doesn't give us all the answers. In fact, it raises more questions than it resolves. But that's exactly what makes it so powerful. We know the betrayal is coming. We know the trial and the cross are on the horizon. But right now, we're in the in-between. And it's in that space that the chosen thrives, showing us the humanity behind the holiness, the friendships behind the faith, and the heartbreak behind the history. And this is just the first episode. There's a reason Judas feels like the centerpiece of this episode, because in many ways he is. We're watching a man slowly break apart even while everyone else still sees him as whole. That's the genius of The Chosen. It doesn't paint Judas as a villain. Not yet. It lets us see the layers. The longing, the fear, the confusion. He's caught between love and ambition, faith and doubt. And in episode 1, those contradictions are pulling him in opposite directions, harder than ever before. He still walks beside Jesus, he still laughs with the other disciples. But there's an ache in his eyes that doesn't go away. It's subtle but devastating. And every word he speaks feels like a countdown, like we're inching closer to a decision that can't be undone. The show isn't rushing it. It's letting the pressure build. And Judas unknowingly is walking toward the most tragic moment in the entire gospel story, step by step, smile by smile. But here's what's even more chilling. Jesus knows. He's always known. And yet he still looks at Judas with love, with gentleness, with that quiet grace that breaks your heart. Because it's so undeserved and yet so freely given. There's a moment in the episode, a look between them, that says everything without a word. Jesus isn't just seeing the man Judas is. He's seeing the man Judas will become. And he doesn't pull away. He doesn't shame him. He stays close. That's what makes this episode so heavy. Because we're witnessing the calm before betrayal. And it's soaked in love. The tension isn't loud. It's quiet. And that silence is deafening. It's what sets this season apart. The danger isn't just outside, it's inside the circle now, inside the very group that's walked with Jesus since the beginning. And Judas isn't the only one wrestling with something deep. Peter is unraveling too. His faith, once so strong, is starting to shake. He's angry, restless, haunted by the miracles he's seen and the responsibility that now weighs on him. He wants to believe that Jesus will bring victory. He wants to believe that the plan is working. But something inside him is changing. It's subtle, just like Judas. But you can feel it in his voice, in his posture. He's starting to see that this mission isn't going to end the way he once hoped. And that scares him more than anything. Because Peter is a fighter. He wants to protect Jesus. He wants to control what's coming. But he can't. None of them can. And the realization of that helplessness is spreading like wildfire among the group. Meanwhile, the pressure from outside is tightening. The religious leaders are watching, waiting, planning. And they're not just after Jesus anymore. They're targeting anyone connected to him. The apostles, the women, the families, everyone is at risk now. The cost of following Jesus is no longer just ridicule or exile. It's death. And that knowledge lingers in every scene. You can feel the characters wondering, how far am I willing to go? And that question isn't just for them, it's for us too. That's what makes The Chosen so powerful. It doesn't just retell history, it holds up a mirror. And in this premiere, it's asking us what we would do if we stood where they stood. The episode builds one thing becomes clear. The days of peace are over. The healing, the teaching, the laughter around the campfires. It's all giving way to something heavier. The road ahead is dark, and the disciples can feel it even if they can't name it. There's a spiritual weight pressing down on them, and each character is reacting differently. Some with more faith, some with fear, some with anger. And then there's Mary Magdalene, quiet, steady, watching it all unfold with a kind of sorrow that comes from knowing how fragile everything is. She doesn't speak much in this episode, but her presence matters. Because while the men argue and worry, she sees, she feels what's coming. And that quiet knowing adds even more gravity to what's ahead. This first episode isn't loud. It doesn't explode with action or grand miracles. But that's what makes it so unsettling. The danger isn't in what's said, it's in what isn't. The cracks are forming, the choices are being made, and the enemy isn't just the Sanhedrin anymore. The enemy is confusion, fear, doubt, and most tragically, the enemy is already inside the camp. but no one sees it yet, except Jesus, and still he walks forward. Still he loves still. He chooses to carry what he knows is coming. That's what makes this episode not just powerful, but sacred. And if episode 1 is this emotionally heavy, what comes next will shake everything. As the episode unfolds, there's a heavy sense that something is building, something no one can stop. The disciples might not fully understand what's about to happen, but they feel it. And so do we. Every conversation carries a little more tension. Every moment of silence lasts just a little too long. There's no more pretending that things will go back to how they were. The miracles aren't enough to quiet the whispers anymore. The crowds still gather, but they're different now. Some come with hope, others come with hatred. And behind every hopeful face is the fear that it could all come crashing down at any moment. That fear is growing and it's spreading fast. Matthew, once the outcast turned faithful follower, is now the most focused he's ever been. But he's also anxious, always scribbling, always watching like he's trying to make sense of a puzzle that doesn't have a solution. He sees things others don't. He notices the way Jesus lingers after conversations, the way his eyes wander to the horizon like he's searching for something or someone. And for a man who's used to order, this uncertainty is almost unbearable. Matthew wants to help. But how do you help someone who already knows the end? That's the tragedy of where we are now. Everyone is trying to do the right thing, but no one knows what that is anymore. And then there's Simon the Zealot. Fierce, passionate, a warrior with no war to fight. He joined Jesus expecting a revolution, a battle victory against Rome. But the more he follows, the more he realizes this is not that kind of fight, and it terrifies him. Because if Jesus won't strike back, who will protect them? The zealot's struggle is deep and raw. His faith is real, but so is his confusion. And this episode forces him to confront the very question that could tear him apart. What if love is the only weapon Jesus ever uses? It's a question that echoes across the group, through Thomas, through Andrew, through Big James. They all gave up everything to follow this man. But now they're starting to realize that following him might cost them everything too. Even the miracles feel different now. In this episode, there's a healing that should have brought joy. But it's met with fear instead. Not because the people don't believe, but because belief comes with a price. The healed man looks around and realizes he's now marked, watched, a walking target. And that realization sends a chill through the crowd. The miracles are no longer just wonders. They're declarations. Each one screams, the kingdom of God is here. And the powerful, both in Rome and in the temple, are ready to silence that message by any means necessary. We've crossed a line, and there's no going back. Jesus, meanwhile, is quieter than usual, still kind, still teaching, but there's a weight behind his words now. He's preparing them, softly, gently. But the message is clear. The time is short, and soon everything will change. He speaks of sacrifice, of betrayal, of death, and though the disciples try to ignore it, they hear him. They just don't want to understand, because if they truly understood, it would break them. And maybe that's the point. Maybe they need to break before they can truly rise. That's the heart of this episode. The quiet before the storm, the unraveling before redemption. And through it all, one relationship shines and breaks us in the process. Jesus and Judas. Their bond is still intact, still tender. Judas hasn't made the choice yet. He's still holding on, still hoping, but you can see the cracks forming. He wants to believe, but he also wants control. He wants safety. He wants certainty. And those wants are poison. Jesus knows it. Judas feels it. And the moment they share in this episode, just a simple exchange of words, is like a knife to the heart. Because we know where this is headed. We know what Judas will do. But right now in this moment, he's still reachable, and Jesus, full of mercy, treats him like a brother. It's beautiful, it's tragic, and it's unforgettable. By the end of the episode, the tone has shifted. It's no longer about the road behind them, it's about the cross ahead. The Chosen isn't just telling the story anymore, it's leading us to the climax. And episode 1 makes that clear. We are entering holy ground now, sacred, painful, and absolutely life-changing. The stakes have never been higher, and every heartbeat, every breath is leading us closer to the moment that will break the world and save it. As the dust rises on the road to Jerusalem, so does the dread. This isn't just another stop. This is the beginning of the end. Every character in this episode is walking straight into destiny, some knowingly, others blindly. And the city itself feels alive, pulsing with conflict secrets and unseen forces, closing in. For those who have followed Jesus since Galilee, the journey has felt like a steady climb of faith, trust, and miracles. But now the air is different. Heaviness follows every step. Joy flickers, but it doesn't stay. Because the people sense what we already know. This is not going to end the way they think it will. Mary Magdalene, once so sure in her faith, now finds herself haunted by silence. She watches Jesus carefully reads his every expression. She knows him better than most, and what she sees now frightens her. Not because he's afraid, but because he's not. There's a peace in him that feels unnatural. It's like he's already seen the other side of the storm, and everyone else is still caught in it. Mary tries to hold on to hope to lead the others, but she too is wrestling with a quiet voice inside her that whispers, "Something is coming and you can't stop it." It's not doubt, it's grief, before the loss has even arrived. And then there's John, the one Jesus loves. He sees the way the Sanhedrin watches from the shadows. He hears the gossip on the streets. The name of Jesus is now a spark that ignites arguments, divides households, and stirs violent threats. The closer they get to Jerusalem, the louder those threats become, and John, ever the witness, is recording it all. Every word, every sign. Because he knows someday someone will need to remember. Someone will need to know why this all happened. That it wasn't just betrayal and death. It was purpose. But even he can't deny the fear in his gut. Not for himself, but for the man. At the center of it all. Meanwhile, the tension between Rome and the temple is boiling over. The authorities aren't just watching anymore. They're plotting this rabbi who stirs crowds and performs unexplainable acts. He's no longer seen as just a nuisance. He's a threat to order, a danger to power. And they've begun sending spies listening to every word. Jesus says waiting for one wrong sentence. Just one moment they can use as justification. But Jesus doesn't give it to them. He continues to speak in parables, in love, in truth. And yet every word he speaks digs deeper into the hearts of both, followers and enemies. They can't stop listening, and that's what terrifies them most. This episode also pulls back the curtain on one of the most painful dynamics in the entire series, Peter's slow unraveling. His faith has always been fiery, but fire burns fast. And lately, Peter is starting to feel the cost. His wife misses him. His heart is heavy with guilt, with frustration, and with questions. He wants Jesus to fight, to take control, to win. But every time he thinks he understands the plan, Jesus does something unexpected. And Peter is cracking under the pressure. His loyalty is real, but his strength is fading. And as we watch him walk, alongside Jesus, we can already see the shadow of that courtyard. The rooster hasn't crowed yet, but it's coming. And then quietly in the middle of it all, Judas walks alone. Not physically, but emotionally. There's a distance in his eyes now, a detachment. He smiles, he laughs, he even defends Jesus. But there's something in him shifting. A seed that was planted long ago is beginning to take root. And Judas is tired. Tired of not knowing the plan. Tired of waiting. Tired of being afraid. He starts speaking to people he shouldn't. Listening. To voices that twist truth into something tempting. They don't come to him with threats. They come with logic, with strategy. But it's manipulation, and it's working. Slowly, painfully, Judas is not a villain in this moment. He's a man losing a battle with himself, and we can't look away. The end of this section, one thing becomes clear. The countdown has started. This is no longer just a story of fishermen tax collectors and a carpenter from Nazareth. This is the story of a revolution that won't raise a sword, but will still shake the earth. The Chosen is showing us the calm before the chaos, the flickering lights before the darkest night. And while we want to believe it will all work out, we're forced to confront a truth that's hard to swallow. Sometimes the only way to save the world is to let it break. But The Chosen doesn't end episode 1 with betrayal. Not yet. Instead, it ends with a look. A long, haunting look. From Jesus to the crowd. His eyes scan the people. The poor, the sick, the desperate, the angry, the hopeful. He sees them all, and they see him. Some cheer, some stare with suspicion, some look away, but Jesus doesn't flinch. And as the episode fades to black, we hear his voice, not in anger, not in fear, but in sorrowful certainty. The hour has come. This is not just the beginning of season 5. It's the beginning of the end. And every fan watching knows the story. We love is about to shatter us, but we can't look away. Because in that shattering, we'll find the reason it all mattered. Judas and Jesus shared a moment. A real moment. And now everything will fall apart. Stay ready. The next episode won't hold back.